for a brand new show. Scooby Doo is here again, away we go.
Scooby Doo is running from a spooky ghost.
Shaggy isn't doing what he does the most. Hey, come on, get involved till the mystery is solved.
Hang around for Scooby Doo.
Hey, come on, get involved till the mystery is solved.
Hang around for Scooby Doo. That's my pal. Scooby Dooby Doo.
Happy 4th of July, Scooby Doo fans. Welcome to my Season 2, Episode 8 review of the Scooby Doo Show. So last time I continued my reviews of the Scooby Doo Show with a review of Season 2, Episode 7 of the Scooby Doo Show. I hope you guys enjoyed that. But of course today, I'll be covering Season 2, Episode 8 of the Scooby Doo Show, titled The Creepy Heat from the Deep, which was released on October 29th, 1977. The short synopsis of the episode is, the gang is having a beach party when a bizarre monster emerges from the deep. Soon after, they meet an old sea captain who tells them about the monster, only to have it steal his soul. So normally I would tell you guys what DVD I'm watching Season 2 of the Scooby-Doo Show on. However, sadly, Season 2 of the Scooby-Doo Show has yet to get any sort of physical media release. As always, like I always say in these Season 2 reviews, I wish it did. I wish we got a complete series box set of the Scooby-Doo Show. At the very least, I would like a Season 2 DVD. Thankfully, because this is a Season 2 finale, this is the last episode I have to watch on a streaming service, as Season 3 will be on the DVD, so thankfully that will be great. But yeah, just like I've done with previous reviews, I will be watching this episode on HBO Max, which is my recommended streaming service to view these Season 2 episodes. Thankfully, the Scooby-Doo Show episodes are still up on HBO Max, as well as Scooby-Doo Where Are You and What's New Scooby-Doo. But they've basically taken down everything else Scooby-Doo, which stinks. But yes, thankfully, Season 2 of the Scooby-Doo Show is still on HBO Max. So if you want to watch all 8 episodes, including this one, you can go to HBO Max. And that's the recommended streaming service to watch this episode, basically. Now, as far as this episode's reception is concerned, I believe most fans really like this episode. I've seen the monster, the titular monster of the episode, the creepy heat from the deep, referenced a lot in Scooby-Doo. It's a monster that's, held in high regards, it seems. So it seems like this episode, if it's not at least good, it's at least considered average, because it clearly stuck with people in some way. But do I agree? Does this Season 2 finale end on a high note? Do we get a great Season 2 finale? Do we get an average Season 2 finale? Or do we get a terrible finish to Season 2 of the Scooby-Doo Show? Well, let's find out, shall we? So let's take a look at the episode to see whether I think it is a good or bad episode of the Scooby-Doo Show. The episode begins with Daphne, Velma, and Fred partying on a deserted beach, while Shaggy and Scooby are fishing in the sea to catch some dinner. While Shaggy initially captured a fish that he wrestles off to no avail, Scooby manages to catch something so heavy that it moves their boat fast. After pulling it out of the water, they come face to face to a strange, monstrous, one-eyed, crab-like monster that chases after them all. The gang hurry and head to a nearby house on a cliff to seek refuge. It is there that they meet Captain Clemens, who tells them about the monster that they saw. According to the legend, the sea creature was once an evil sailor who was cursed and thrown overboard by his shipmates. His spirit still lives on, though, through a supernatural being, searching for victims so he could steal their souls to stay alive. The gang heads to the Mystery Machine to call the police, where they discover that it has been ransacked by the monster. They follow his footprints back to the house, where they discover a pale, static Captain Clemens, assuming he had his soul removed by the monster. Fred, Velma, and Daphne head back to the beach to look for clues, while Shaggy and Scooby stay at the house. Unbeknownst to both of them, though, a revived Captain Clemens begins to chase them, trying to steal their souls. They try to slow him down by giving him a girly makeover. I really enjoy this Shaggy and Scooby scene with Captain Clemens. Not only is it quite creepy in the beginning, with Captain Clemens, looking like a basically zombie-like and doing the monster's bidding, because presumably his soul is gone and he's just this lackey, that's doing the monster's bidding, and he's really creepy. Because before, you just see him on a chair with his finger, writing something out. It's a creature spirit, and it looked like blood, and that was quite creepy. And now he's up and about, and now he's like soulless, and he's basically doing the creature's bidding. And then Shaggy and Scooby definitely lighten the mood when they try to give him a girly makeover, which is really funny, and I have a great time with it.
Like, what's keeping our guys? It's getting creepy babysitting that creep. Oh, no. Zoinks! What are you doing out of your chair?
No, the creature owns my spirit.
Oh, no, the creature owns his spirit.
He commands me to bring him more victims.
If you mean us, we just went that way. Whoa! Through that door, Scoob. Aha! You have come for the Madam Shaggy's beauty treatment, no?
No.
But yes, you naughty little captain. You look so pale. You need the rouge. Lipstick. And the hair, it is nowhere. Magnifique. And now for the final touch, that means so much. And here's Moldy Odo. Aha! You want to see the new you? You're right. You're uglier than ever.
Shaggy and Scooby hide in a room and discover that it is an elevator, which leads from the cliff to the beach. The sea monster begins to chase them while Fred, Velma, and Daphne watch. Daphne notices the creature begins to head back into the ocean towards a blinking light in the distance. Fred notices a blinking light going off in Captain Clement's house as well. The gang put on their scuba gear and decide to follow him into the ocean. Shaggy and Scooby discover a sunken submarine with an air pocket in it to hide from the monster. The rest of the gang follows but are chased back to the beach by the monster. They begin to split up and look for clues. The only clue that was found by Fred and Daphne is an old cell block key. The gang decide to follow the blinking light where they discover an old ship floating. They see the sea monster being hauled aboard by a rope and pulley. They decide to check the chart room where they discover that the submarine is directly beneath the boat. They return to the sub and discover a room that Daphne refers to as an underwater beauty parlor because there's several canisters of hair dye and other makeup items. There's also a mugshot of a wanted criminal, including a picture of the criminal with a different appearance. Captain Clements and the monster appear to chase them. The gang hide in the torpedo room where Fred devises a scheme to capture the creature and Captain Clements. The plan is a success, but they accidentally capture Scooby-Doo in the process. I really enjoyed this final trap sequence. This is a nice creative trap by Fred, and I also like that Velma gets to act as bait with Shaggy and Scooby. That's not usually a dynamic we see. Normally it's just Shaggy and Scooby. We've had Velma pair up with Daphne, but we never had Velma pair up with Shaggy and Scooby to be the bait, so I did like that change up where Velma lured Captain Clements to the trap, while Shaggy and Scooby lured the sea monster to the trap. And it was a good teamwork on their front. So yeah, I like this trap sequence, not just because of Fred's creativity, but also because Velma gets to be involved in the trap as bait, which is normally something that we don't see. We saw it once in, the 10,000 Volt Ghost episode with Daphne, but this was a different dynamic where she got to be with Shaggy and Scooby and be the bait, which I really enjoy.
Yeah. Bet you can't catch me.
Like, do you know a good seafood restaurant?
Fire one! Fire two! Fire three! Fire three?
Zoinks! You on Scooby Doo too?
Let's get to the periscope, quick!
Wow, there they go for a sandy landing.
Scooby Doo Doo.
The police are then called and the monsters are revealed. Captain Clements was the mastermind behind the entire crime. He was helping criminals escape the country through the ship. Prisoners would dress up as the monster to scare people away. Captain Clements was never possessed. He used the light signal to let prisoners know when he was ready to ship them. The sea creature costume had a jet motor in it, enabling the criminal to quickly swim out to the sub where Captain Clements would be waiting to change the criminal's appearance and give them false identification papers. Then the criminals would be taken out of the country on the ship. The monster is revealed to be a notorious bank robber who just broke out of jail with the homemade cell block key Fred found. The sheriff asks how the gang were so brave, with Shaggy replying that they're not scared by big monsters. Just then, the episode ends with Shaggy and Scooby being scared by a small angry crab which chases them across the beach as Fred, Daphne, and Velma watch in amusement. I'm going to give Season 2, Episode 8 of The Scooby Doo Show 4 stars out of 5. Yeah, this was a good episode. This was a good finale to Season 2. It had a good variety of both, creep factor and, comedic factor. It was a nice blend of fun and creepiness. So this was overall a good finish to Season 2. Obviously, it's not perfect. It has issues that I will bring up first before I get into my positives for the episode and what I like about it. So before I get into my positives for the episode and what makes this episode a good finale to Season 2, I'll first get into my negatives of the episode and what holds this episode back from being a 5-star, finale to Season 2. So starting with the negatives, my first one is I think Daphne was weak in this episode. Daphne didn't really do anything. She didn't really have anything going for her, didn't really find any of the clues, wasn't really much of a leader, didn't really piece together the clues to help solve the mystery, wasn't cowardly or comedic. She just didn't really have anything going for her. She didn't stand out in any way. So yeah, once again, this seems to be a recurring theme. It sucks, but, I have to be honest with myself. And yeah, Daphne just, has consistently just not been utilized very well. Hopefully that'll change soon. I'm sure we'll come across an episode where that'll change. But in this episode, it's still the same situation where Daphne just didn't really have much to do in this episode and didn't really stand out in any way. Outside of costume, we really never see this unnamed bank robber. This bank robber that we don't get a name for. We never see this guy before. We don't know who the heck he is. The police officer has to explain who he is at the end. And we don't even get a name for him. He's just this notorious bank robber that broke out of jail. So he's a very nothing character. Captain Clements is really the more interesting character and is the mastermind. This notorious bank robber is just another, just another guy in a long list of criminals that are, paying their money to get for their freedom and being a part of this operation and scheme in order to achieve their freedom. So yeah, this bank robber was such a nothing character. I don't like when the police have to identify who, the suspect is, because if the police have to identify who the villain is, that really takes away from it. I really like when we, see the characters beforehand, we get a sense for them and, see what they're like before we find out they're the villains. And we don't see this guy at all. He's a nothing character. So yeah, just not really great outside of costume. We don't know who the hell this guy, unnamed bank robber is or what his backstory is. There was a lack of suspects in the episode. So you only have 2 suspects in the episode. You have Captain Clements and you have the beach hermit, Velma, Shaggy, and Scooby encounter. So Captain Clements is pretty obvious as the villain. Like, he plays a soulless version of himself. He doesn't even hide the fact that he's, one of the villains. He tries to play it up as a victim, and tries to play it up like he's, being controlled by the monster. But it's clear to the audience, definitely by, once he, becomes soulless, that he's definitely most likely part of the villain scheme. So that really only leaves the beach hermit, and he's obviously a red herring. He's clearly supposed to be a red herring. He has the same noises as the sea monster. So it was either going to be they go with the red herring or they go with somebody we'd never seen before. And sure enough, they go with someone we never seen before. Both options would have been bad, so it wouldn't have mattered either way. But yeah, we needed a couple more suspects. I think it's not the worst thing in the world that we know that Captain Clements is one of the villains, because he's not really the guy in costume. It's more so the sea monster that's the main attraction of this episode. He's the main monster. But I wish we had gotten maybe like 3 or 4 suspects in the episode besides Captain Clements. I say maybe 2 other suspects besides Captain Clements at the very least would have sufficed, and maybe even 3 would have sufficed. But as it is, we only have the 2 suspects. Captain Clements is obvious as the villain. He doesn't really hide it. He plays it off as like a victim, but once things start falling together towards the middle, back half of the episode, it's pretty obvious that he's one of the villains. And, with the sea monster, it's either 50-50 of, well, this is either going to be someone we don't know, and the police have to identify them, or it's going to be the red herring of the episode, the beach hermit. And sure enough, it ends up being someone we don't know, and the police have to identify it. So yeah, definitely needed to expand the pool of suspects in this episode. And my final negative is that I found there to be no mystery in this episode. There's not really much of a mystery about the titular creepy heat from the deep, who is what the sea monster is called. There's no mystery behind him. Captain Clements explains the backstory of the monster, so we know, the backstory of the monster. We know who he is, why he's doing the things he is. So there's no mystery to why he's stealing Captain Clements' soul, why he's haunting the beach looking, going after the gang. We get all those answers. So there's really no sort of mystery or any questions you're really asking throughout the episode. It's really more so just, the gang are just they see a strange occurrence happening, and they see, one of the villains, like in the last episode, pretending to be in danger. In this case, Captain Clements is pretending that he lost his soul and is now like being mind controlled by the monster. So the gang are that much more motivated to figure out what's going on in order to solve the case and figure out what's actually going on. But there's not really much mystery there. It's more so they're just trying to be good Samaritans, and they see something strange, and they're just trying to get to the bottom of it in order to, help Captain Clements, as well as themselves and any other people that could come across the villain at any point in the episode. So yeah, there's just no mystery in this episode. There's not really any questions you're asking. There's no sort of mystery at all in this episode. So that's all I got for negatives. So now let's get on to the positives of the episode and what I actually did like about the episode. So starting with the positives, my first one is I think Fred, helped create a cool trap in this episode. I really liked Fred's trap at the end. He was very, it was very unique, and it was very cool and a nice, neat little trap. And I did like that Fred helped find one of the major clues of the episode, which was the cell block key that Fred and Daphne found on the beach. But it was mainly Fred who found it. So yeah, Fred, he wasn't really much of a leader in this episode, and he didn't really piece together the clues to help solve the mystery. But I did like that Fred helped create a cool trap in this episode, and he did find one of the vital clues of the episode. So I feel like he did enough to where I, found him to be, well utilized and good in this episode. Then we have Velma. Velma also helped find one of the clues of the episode. She helped find, the makeup items and the hair dye. Yeah, she was with Daphne as well. But again, Velma really found it first, and I really credit the find to her rather than Daphne. Also, Velma helps find one of the mugshots, of the criminal changing his appearance. So she did help find those 2 clues as well. And I did like that she was bait for the trap in this episode. I think it was something fresh and unique. I like, even though Velma has been the bait, in a previous in season 1 of the Scooby Doo Show with Daphne in the 10,000 Volt Ghost episode, I like that in this episode she got to be paired up with Shaggy and Scooby as the bait, which was a nice little team up and pair up that we don't see often as the bait for the trap. We obviously see them split up and look for clues together, but we don't actually see this pair act as the bait for the villains of the episode. So I like that Velma got to be involved in it, and it wasn't just Shaggy and Scooby that had to be the bait for the trap. And last, but certainly not least, we have Shaggy and Scooby. Shaggy and Scooby were their usual funny, cowardly selves. I really enjoyed them in this episode. They had a lot of funny moments in this episode. They were quite cowardly in this episode. And they helped capture the villains at the end. Like I said, they were the bait for the trap. And them, along with Velma, helped lure the soulless Captain Clements, along with, the creepy heat from the deep, to the trap. And, helped capture both of them at the end. And Scooby was accidentally, shot off. And Scooby landed on top of them. So, yeah, Shaggy and Scooby fulfilled their basic roles of being funny and cowardly. And they also helped capture the villains at the end by being the bait along with Velma for the trap. Then we have the villains of the episode, who I thought were quite creepy in this episode. So the main two villains of the episode are the soulless Captain Clements and the titular creepy heat from the deep. I love both of them. They both had great designs. They were both quite creepy, and what they did in the episode was quite creepy. They weren't particularly scary. They didn't get to that level, but they were creepy, and they weren't fun or entertaining. But like I said, they were creepy, and that was the main thing that I got away from this episode. Is not just based on the designs. Like, I like how Captain Clements was like kind of pale and kind of grayish, and he was like zombie-like, putting his hands out. And that one moment where he pretended to be like a victim, and he had his mouth open like he was in shock, and he had his his hand on the table, and he had written out creature spirit, and it looked like blood, which was really creepy. And when he woke up, it was creepy, saying that he wanted to get Shaggy and Scooby's spirit for the creature, which is also very creepy. And the creepy heat from the deep is creepy in a sense because he's capturing people's souls in order to keep himself alive. That's quite creepy. Very creepy, in fact. And, what he does to Captain Clements, or what we assume he does to Captain Clements, is quite creepy. And I like the design. It's really cool. I think it's a cool design. I quite like the creepy heat from the deep, and I could see why he's fondly remembered. He has a nice design, and Captain Clements has a great design as well. So overall, really what, helps them in this episode is basically their designs and basically their actions. How the creepy heat from the deep can take people's souls, and Captain Clements, pretending to be a victim of, the monster and having his soul taken away, and showing the example of what could happen if your soul is taken by this monster. You become a minion, you're very zombie-like and gray, and you do the monster's bidding and get more souls for him. And that's quite creepy. So yeah, really good villains in this episode. I love the creep factor from them. Outside of costume, we have Captain Clements, and I found Captain Clements to be really good outside of costume. He was an interesting character. So he tells the backstory of the monster, which is awesome. I love hearing the backstory of how he was this evil sailor who got a curse put on him and was thrown overboard by his shipmates, and now he's back as this awful monster. And to stay alive, he needs to go after all these victims on land in order to keeping them alive by stealing their souls, and that's really creepy. And I love the backstory he tells, setting up the villain. And I love that he portrays himself as a victim, when in actuality he's the mastermind. So he's great at deception, because in the beginning, you're led to believe he's this good man. Like, he's helping out the gang. He's saying that, he'll allow them to use their phone. He's telling them the backstory of the villain and what they saw. And, he doesn't do anything, overtly suspicious in the beginning. And then he portrays himself as a victim that was caught by the monster. And it's only until the end that you realize that he's actually the mastermind behind it, and he just did it to sell the scare factor of the episode even more, so the gang would hopefully leave and he could continue his operation, or he could get rid of them somehow. But yeah, Captain Clements, very interesting character, really like him. I love the backstory he gives for the creepy heat from the deep, and I love how he portrays himself as a victim. I really love the deception of it. So yeah, really good character outside of costume. Then we have the motives of the episode, which I thought were great as well. So you actually have two separate motives in this episode. The bank robber has one, and Captain Clements has one. So the bank robber's motive, this unnamed bank robber's motive, is that he wanted to conceal and change his identity from the police so that he could basically escape the country. And Captain Clements' motive is that he wanted to help criminals escape the country for money. Both of these motives are really awesome. When it comes to the bank robber's motive, what I like is that it's a freedom-based motive. This criminal's not after money or anything. He just wants freedom. He just wants to get out of the country. He doesn't care how. He just wants Captain Clements' help. Obviously, he has to fork over money in order to get that freedom. But I really like the idea of using freedom as a motive. That this guy is only scaring temporarily, just so that he can get his stuff in order and get the freedom he wants. He's basically stalling until Captain Clements can, get all the necessary papers and, make up stuff in order to, get him across the border into a different country and basically escape the police. So there's that aspect, and then Captain Clements' motive is actually really good. Yeah, it's just a money motive, but it's a really good one. Charging criminals for their freedom, that's a really neat idea. We haven't had that as a motive yet, and Captain Clements, that's a really good design. He's basically saying, hey, you want my help? I'll provide you my services, but this doesn't come for free. I'll charge you and I'll for my services, and I'll help conceal your identity and get you to a different country and escape the police, but you have to fork over some money for me because I don't do this for free. And he had a whole operation and crew of it, so it was a really neat operation motive. A whole operation based on, basically getting escaped criminals across the country, to a different country, by ship is a really neat idea for a motive. So both motives are really fantastic, really unique, really interesting, and I love both motives on the episode. Both the freedom aspect of it and the money aspect of it all really fit well together, and it's something unique and fresh we haven't had yet. So both motives, fantastic. I really enjoyed them. I love the layers and depth to them, and I love the scheme behind it. It was well executed and a great design. Next up, we have the clues of the episode, which I thought were good as well. So, the clues in this episode were the cell block key Fred found, you had the makeup items and the hair dye that Daphne and Velma found, and you have the mugshots of the criminals, before and after they changed their appearance. So this all helps point towards both motives, the freedom motive for the notorious bank robber, and the operation motive, the money operation motive for Captain Clements. So the clues do a good job pointing towards the motives. They obviously don't narrow down the suspects, but they do point towards the motive, and once you get all the pieces together, you can reasonably assume what the motive may be. So yeah, the clues did their part, and I thought the clues were well executed. They help point towards both motives, and that's what I want out of the clues. I thought the atmosphere of the episode was good as well. So yeah, I did feel tension and suspense in this episode for the majority of the episode. There was definitely a little bit of creepiness and eeriness in the beginning portions of the episode, mainly with the Captain Clements, being soulless and, writing in blood on the table, or what I assume to be blood, and being, and his first appearance as a soulless version of himself. So the tone is set quite well in the beginning. There's a very good, creepy, eerie vibe in the beginning. But for the majority of the episode, I really only felt tension and suspense. I did fear for the gang's safety because this monster presumably can take your soul and make you his minion. And there's definitely a threat to that, to where if this monster catches you, he could potentially make you one of his servants and, take your soul away, and you're basically this mindless zombie that, is a minion of this monster. And, I was on the edge of my seat wondering what was going to happen next, because I didn't know where the story was going to go, where it was going to take us, so it was quite fascinating story and plot, and I was on the edge of my seat, fearing for the gang's safety and hoping that they would be all right. Obviously, they would, but I was fearing for the gang's safety, because of the abilities of the monster and how he could potentially make them his next victims. And the beginning portions of the episode had a good, creepy, eerie vibe to them, mainly with the Captain Clements being soulless and his first appearance of being soulless. So yeah, the atmosphere was quite well executed in this episode, not just from the villains, mainly from the villains of the episode. Not so much the setting, but definitely the villains were the main contributing factor of the atmosphere of the episode. Although I will say one of the settings could potentially contribute a little bit to the atmosphere, but it was mainly the villains. They really help elevate the atmosphere of the episode. And my final positive is that I found the setting of the episode to be good as well. So there's a couple different settings for the episode, but what I consider to be the main setting of the episode is the submarine. I think the submarine is the main setting of the episode because I feel like that's where the gang go the most, and I like the submarine the most out of all the settings. I feel like the submarine was something unique and fresh. I don't think we've had a submarine as a setting before, so that it was a really neat and cool setting for the episode. And it provided a lot of tension and suspense because it's on the ocean floor. The gang are kind of secluded and trapped down there, and one wrong move and they could easily, perish. So the submarine was definitely the best aspect of the setting. I will say, however, the other settings were very stock standard. You have the ship above above the submarine. You have the Captain Clements' house, and you have the beach surrounding Captain Clements' house. All of these are very, stock standard settings. There's nothing particularly amazing about them. But they're fine enough settings. They're not bad. They're just not amazing or anything. But the reason I gave a positive for the setting is that I really like the submarine. And I feel like because the submarine was the main setting of the episode, that I could give it a pass. If it was maybe one of the other settings, maybe I wouldn't have given it a pass. But because the submarine, I feel, was where the majority of the episode took place, and because it did provide variety in the episode and we did get to go to a bunch of different settings, I feel like overall the setting worked well enough. Obviously, the three other settings could have been a lot better. They definitely were not one of the better choices for settings, but the submarine more than made up for that and was a great, unique and fresh setting for a Scooby Doo episode that we hadn't, really seen before. Overall, guys, I would personally recommend this episode to fans and newcomers of the show. It's a great finale to Season 2, a really good finale, in fact, and Season 2 ended on a high note, and I was really happy about that. I love when finales end on a high note, and this definitely was one of the better season finales, so I'm really happy Season 2 ended on a good note and ended on a high note, and it's just a very fun and enjoyable episode. Not only that, but it has a lot of creep factor to it. It's not the scariest episode in the world, but it has enough creep factor to it, and it's very fun and enjoyable that I feel like I can go back and enjoy this episode and rewatch it. So it's definitely probably maybe the second best episode of Season 2. Definitely behind Vampire Bats and the Scaredy Cats. Obviously, that's definitely the best one of Season 2, but this is right up there. Definitely one of the better episodes of the Scooby Doo Show as a whole, but definitely the second best episode of Season 2. Really good way to end the season. They really saved the best for last for Season 2, and I'm very happy with how Season 2 ended, and I definitely think you guys should give it a shot. It's a really fun and enjoyable episode. It's not the scariest episode in the world, but it has a good amount of creep factor, and is very fun and enjoyable that I feel like you guys can have a fun time with it and still enjoy it and have enough creepiness to it to where it has both aspects that you need in a Scooby-Doo episode. It's both fun and enjoyable and has a good amount of comedy, but it's also got enough creepiness and eeriness to it that, it's a good balance. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the review. Please give it a like if you did. Comment down below your thoughts on the episode. Do you like this episode? Are you like me? Do you consider this a good finale to Season 2? Even a great finale to Season 2 and one of the better episodes of the Scooby Doo Show? Do you hate this episode? I'd be interested in that as well. Do you not like this episode? Do you think do you disagree with me? Do you think this is not a great finale to Season 2 and it has problems that maybe I don't see? Or are you somewhere in the middle where you think it's okay, it's average and decent, but it's not good or bad? I'm curious for your thoughts, so let me know. And subscribe for more Scooby Doo content like this, or if you're just interested in any of my other content. Obviously, I have more Scooby Doo reviews on the way as part of my 2025 summer special, Scooby Month Halloween special. This is obviously a Scooby-focused channel, so we do all things Scooby Doo. So if you love the TV shows, the movies, the video games, the books, you name it, we're doing all of it on this channel. You know, I love all things Scooby Doo. So yeah, if you're a diehard fan, if you're a newcomer, whichever one you are, and you need, you know, if you're a diehard fan who wants to hear my thoughts and opinions and wants to share your own thoughts and opinions on each individual episode and movie and video game and book, or a newcomer who maybe doesn't know where to start and is looking for these reviews to, you know, my personal recommendations on where to go, and maybe some of you guys' personal recommendations on where to go, any of you diehard fans that are watching. Whichever boat, you know, you're on, whichever side of the fence you're on, hopefully this will provide that for you. But yeah, if you love all things Scooby-Doo, if you're a diehard fan or a newcomer, if you want to learn all there is to know about Scooby-Doo and you love the Mystery Inc. gang, come join the channel and experience some amazing Scooby-Doo content. In my next video, I'll continue my 2025 summer special with a review of Season 3, Episode 1 of the Scooby Doo Show, titled Watch Out the Willowa. I don't remember this episode, actually. I don't remember how this will be. I'm interested to see how Season 3 will start out. And this is the first show that has a third season, so I'm very interested, and it obviously has the same amount of episodes as Season 1, so it's not as short as Season 2, so we got a good chunk of episodes to go. But yeah, we're on to Season 3. This is the first show that has a third season. I don't remember Season 3, Episode 1 with the Willowa episode. It's been a while, so hopefully it'll be a good start to Season 3. But yeah, if you want to know my thoughts on Season 3, Episode 1 of the Scooby Doo Show, Watch Out the Willowa, then come join me next time. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching this video, and as always, peace out.
Got it all together for a brand new show. Scooby Doo is here again, away we go.
Scooby-Doo is running from a spooky ghost.
Shaggy isn't doing what he does the most. Hey, come on, get involved till the mystery is solved.
Hang around for Scooby-Doo.
Hey, come on, get involved till the mystery is solved.
Hang around for Scooby-Doo. That's my pal. Scooby-Dooby-Doo.